I had a nice scalp off of New York VWAP this morning after I respected it many times, continuing our 6-day winning streak. And I want to go over the lessons on how to take this setup and also how to flip your bias once you get new information. So like I said, this is continuing that 6-day win streak. If you don't remember, there was a blown account on that day, so that day is going to be technically red. Overall, we made money on a different account. But let's go over to the setup that made us money this morning to start the week on a Monday. So we're looking at the electronic trading hours. You're going to see now the New York VWAP is in blue from the 9:30 New York Open, where the black one is at overnight, anchored to the 6 p.m. Eastern changeover of day. And we're respecting both of them, right? An open comes in slightly bearish. I'm not really chasing shorts because we can get right into it. If you blow up this 15-minute, why would I be bearish coming into the morning when we have higher highs and higher lows really just drifting overnight, and we return back to that overnight view up here at the open? How can I be bearish at this point in the day, right? Not enough information. It could happen, but just because we get 6 minutes down at the open does not mean I'm looking for shorts. So we wait for buyers to try to step back in, and they in fact do. So honestly, your first idea would probably be the first take of New York VWAP. A strong close there. You're going to have a stop loss at the bottom of that range. At this point, it's 945. The opening range is set. Now this one's tough because you got terrible risk reward to that opening range high. And I'd always suggest taking it full exit on that first break. So maybe that's that pin there. Or even if you get the bodies over here, your trade would probably be out on this push higher, right? Especially suffering all this, not drawdown necessarily, all drawdown, but choppy, moving sideways. We get the first breakout out of open range high. Not something we want to try to hold through because they often don't run. So take your winner there for, honestly, it looks like close to 1R. So a nice little win there. But then we get a pullback back to that same view up that we were just trading off of the overnight and the New York. So one more time, not chasing this lower just because it looks like it's a strong close below New York. Look how well we're respecting this view up. I have to still be a buyer until we get a new low a day. And I was saying it on stream that if shorts do come in, that's fine. But I can't say that anywhere within this range, my shorts are going to be coming after a new low a day outside the open range low, which is exactly why I like the stop loss on my long here, because I'll know, okay, I'm wrong. Maybe I don't want to be looking for longs anymore. Let me look for shorts. The worst thing to do, even though it would have maybe been safe, maybe not. Let's say you long it back here on that take of New York with the stop loss right at that structure. Yes, it goes into profits. Hopefully you close it up there. But in a different world where you don't, and you just get stopped out because this doesn't invalidate anything. A break for a new low outside the range would. So no matter where you longed it in this range, whether it was on this break in New York, the ones previous, or the one I ended up taking, you need to have a stop loss at the opening range low. And that's exactly what we had. And you even get a break of the open range high and the high of day view up, saying buyers are 100% back in. Let's go get that second break of open range high because we don't want this first one back here, right? And it runs a little bit. It stalls at this open range high, but really, let's clear up these notes. You could screenshot them if you want them. Let's just get rid of everything. Remove it all. Remove all the VWAPs. Let's just leave. Actually, let's go to regular trading hours. So keep it as simple as possible. On the regular trading hours, when you just remove all VWAPs, are we actually ranging? Not really, just moving slowly, but I still see consistent higher lows on the bottom. We even got the higher high there, and we technically get a small higher high there. So it is moving higher, but it is moving slow, right? So you can't let this scare you out of your long of saying, yeah, this thing can't move higher. Buyers just defended it super well 3-4 times along this New York. I have to still be a buyer. Let me hold through, right? You don't want to suffocate that trade and take a loss or get a break even if you had your stop loss move too soon. So when we get back to the trade over here, the worst thing to do is move your stop loss to break even just at this point because you're not wanting to take a loss and you don't want to keep in this trade any longer. You probably get tagged out and it moves higher without you. So thankfully we sat through that. We left the stop loss alone. And fortunately, I got a nice exit on this one on this candle there, right? So we left a little bit on the table, like 2 points. But because it's super slow, it's drifting its way higher. We're back at this high here. I've spent 40 minutes in this trade. Thank you very much. And fortunately, because it came right back down and actually turned into not a bearish day overall, maybe since the New York session, but definitely bearish after that trade. Now, one more thing, like I was saying on this 15-minute, clearly loving the longs with that. Look at how well we're respecting this overnight view up in black. All these 15-minute closures, these pins to the downside. Sellers can't even close us below. So although we're throwing pins and bodies below it on the 1 minute, every 15 minutes, buyers found a way to close us back above. So that's why there's great support that I love the long. But also notice, it's now maybe easier to look back in hindsight, notice that, okay, sellers are clearly struggling below us, but are buyers necessarily winning just because sellers are struggling? Not really, because there's also pins to the upside and we're leaving these small little bodies. So maybe that's why you can maybe see that flush come in later of, well, yeah, sellers were in, or sellers weren't in, but buyers weren't really in either. It was slowly moving higher. Now, again, of course, it could have moved higher, but seeing it now flip could have just been the weakness of the buyers trying to move us higher. Another thing that I think Zach on stream and a few other people were looking at is the NQ midnight price. ES had already hit it, where if you go over to NQ here, we'll just go, let's keep it on the 15 minute. If they're on that overnight VWAP, it's going to look the same on this black line here. That one bodied right off of it at the open and a clear push higher. No problem. So clearly buyers are in control. Also watching that on stream helps me sit through my ES longs saying, well, stocks are up, NQ's ripping. ES probably just needs a couple more minutes and it's going to move with it. And I made a video on it. I feel like I'm touching on it every single day. What's the better asset to trade? Today it was NQ. Had no problem lifting higher, although it did come back down. If you took those bounces off New York at the open, it clearly had the strength of buyers in, and maybe you make your money a little bit easier. But now let's take it over to the 1 minute, and this white line you see on the bottom, that's the midnight open price, where we opened up at midnight. If we look at that and we just measure where we opened up at on that specific one, let's measure that from the midnight price. We opened above it only 0.14, and this is on NQ, so it's 36 points. If we go over to Edgeful, let's chain this to the micro NQ, and then go to the ICT opening retracement somewhere down here on the bottom. And like I said, we're going to filter this by size of 0.14. You can see when we open above it of 0.14 like we did, 81% of the time it wants to retrace down to that price again. So the fact that we open above it pretty small, only 36 points, 81% of the time it wants to move back down to get that. So now Zach and a few other people on stream were looking later on, once you take this New York view up over here, maybe you're not selling it exactly there, but you get a nice break and retest to the overnight. A nice target would be that midnight price, which is where we eventually get. Like it said it wanted to, 81% of the time. So that could have definitely warranted some shorts later on in the afternoon once you see the longs stall and actually flip, because there was a clear target below you. And like I said, ES had already hit it, so that one was already fulfilled. But when you watch both assets, you could check this report, you could check the initial balance, all these other ones, and find a target where we may or may not want to go. And on this one, shorts down to this midnight, right? Even if you shorted it off this open range low, because it still hadn't been engaged yet, some nice move in that as well. But hopefully you guys find value in how I read that 15 minute. And again, I think if you took the longs with us on stream, I think they were great trades. A lot of lessons in the management, because I think a few people were losing somehow, first of all. But even with the losses aside on the winning trades that we technically took, right, losing on a move that moves in your favor, if you take this long and you don't close it up here for whatever reason and you lose, could we look to get a little bit better of why I could have closed it there, secure some there and leave some running, right? Don't just float your whole size. But regardless, let's say you lose there. At that time, well, maybe you're getting stopped out down here. It's 11 o'clock. Pivot to the new information. I'd say you don't have new information here yet. You're still along that New York, still building higher lows. But by the afternoon, you take a break. You realize that loss. Okay, we're fine. I didn't over risk. You get a nice new low a day. Retest the open range low here. You could short it down there. It makes a new low a day. You could anchor a low a day VWAP here. And when sellers take that out, you could try to sell that. The break of that, stop loss, that structure survives this pullback. It's tough. It sucks. But eventually makes another lower high. And you get a nice new push for another low. Or you could take this low a day break if you didn't take that first one we just marked up. So the whole lesson being, even if you do take a loss, they're going to happen. They're actually going to happen probably tomorrow. I don't know when you're watching this. The whole idea is your ability to maybe bounce back, take in the new information. The reason I loved my longs earlier, we went over, but I also like the risk reward on, well, I know where I'd want to be out of the longs. If this breaks this open range low at this point after holding bullish, if it breaks down here, I don't want to be long. So I can now use that new information to my advantage to make a better decision on the next one. I don't need to keep on marrying the longs. I'm now only looking for shorts. And then ideally, let's say you lose 300 up here. You short it, you make 300. Okay, it's not a bad day. You took a loss, you took a win. Great job. Come back tomorrow. Right? So just the ability to pivot and react to new information with the VWAPs every single day, as long as there's some sort of trend one way or another, we could capitalize on both. Right? I even could have made money on the upside today. If I stuck around in the afternoon, I could have made money to the downside. Doesn't really matter. I'm just going to read and react to the current VWAPs, current structure, off of my key levels, and not over risk on any one idea. All right, so I appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you check out AceFX TV. All these strategies are broken down in there in full, as well as the trades that we took this morning on stream. Randy got his payout over the line, so that's beautiful as well. But if you guys use code FIRST, links in my bio, you get access for your first month absolutely free to the streams and the courses. So see you guys in there. Trade safe. See you guys on the charts tomorrow morning.